Before this video starts, I want to give a friend of mine, Dylan, a thanks for making my new logo. If you want to see more of his stuff, I'll put a link in the description to his site in this video and every video from now on. So this is where I take the game's intro and put it at the beginning of the video because I find it the easiest way of starting a video. But this game's intro is just this. A picture, and that's it. No music, the start button doesn't even flash. That's it. Also, sorry this video took forever. I was busy. Also, I was sick for a week. Back in my Spyro videos, I made it very clear that the Spyro series is incredibly important to me. Spyro 3 was even the first video game I've ever played. However, there is one franchise that's even more important to me, SpongeBob SquarePants. I can at least remember when I became a Spyro fan, but with SpongeBob, no. I've been a fan longer than I could remember. I don't hold a single memory where SpongeBob didn't occupy a large portion of my brain space. Honestly, can you blame me? The first few seasons were some of the funniest and most memorable things put on TV. You could say things like, is mayonnaise an instrument, or even just 24, and you'll have people in their mid-20s who haven't seen an episode in 10 years burst out laughing. If you've been deprived as a child and haven't seen the show, please do so. The Season 2 episode Band Geeks is often cited as the best episode in the series, and for a very good reason, so if you want to know where to start, there you go. Okay, you can probably get the sense that I'm kind of a massive fan of the show. If you've seen any of my previous reviews, you've probably already come to that conclusion. I was an even bigger fan as a kid, to a point where my dad doesn't like the show, and I'm pretty sure it's because my obsession made raising me just that much harder. If I saw a SpongeBob thing in the store, I had to have it. It didn't matter what it was, toys, DVDs, coloring books, pineapples, like actual pineapples, I'm not even joking, and especially video games. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman in particular is a game I pestered my parents for a lot, and I did eventually get it, and I liked it at the time, and not to jump the gun, but yeah, not today. Also, I should probably explain my plans with my next couple of videos. Most of my previous videos were part of the Spyro Marathon, and that took 7 months to complete. I don't want to do that again, so I'm only covering this game and Battle of Bikini Bottom for this marathon. It's not really a marathon. And I was originally going to do this later because Nickelodeon announced that they're remastering some of their old games, and I thought it'd be good to wait until that, but recently it was announced that Steven Hillenburg, the creator of the show, died at age 57 from ALS, and I don't want to go too deep into that, but what I will say is that man defined my childhood and millions of others, and it's a tragedy that he's gone. So I decided to do this as I guess a way of paying respects to him. So I guess we'll start the video. The game begins with SpongeBob waking up very abruptly from a silly dream about the Krusty Krab closing down, then yelling,
"I have the feeling today will be like no other day!"
After playing fetch with Gary, Gary somehow uncovers buried treasure. SpongeBob ignores all warning signs thanks to his sudden illiteracy and unleashes Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. The Flying Dutchman doesn't particularly like people touching his stuff, so he brainwashes SpongeBob to work in his crew, or at least he was going to until SpongeBob placed the blame on Gary. The Flying Dutchman later takes Gary and for some reason kidnaps everyone else in the show too. SpongeBob soon learns the only way to stop the Flying Dutchman is to collect all of his hidden treasures, before the Dutchman inevitably kidnaps him too. Oh, and the Krusty Krab closes down due to a lack of customers, and Plankton opens up a theme park or something. Yeah, those two side plots don't actually have anything to do with anything. I think this is a fine plot for the most part. I mostly just don't like how they made SpongeBob dumber for the sake of the plot. Like, I know he's not smart, but he can read. He also ratted Gary out to the Flying Dutchman. He makes it seem like his intention wasn't to screw over Gary, but then what was his intention? Either this is another example of SpongeBob being dumber for the sake of the plot, or he's a lot more malicious than we thought. The gameplay is that of really any other open 3D platformer. You do things to get things. Some of those things you get are doubloons and jellyfish. You need a certain amount of them in each level to get the SpongeBob letters. They kind of remind me of the Kong letters from the Donkey Kong Country games, except functionally they're more like the Power Stars in the 3D Mario games. The major difference being with Mario, or really any other 3D platformer, you don't need to get all of them, only a large chunk. Here, You need to get absolutely everything, and that's kind of a problem. Not only does that mean the game is way less open because you have to get everything, but these missions really suck. Standing on a jellyfish for 3 minutes while occasionally jumping, staying on a hamster wheel for a minute, delivering Krabby Patties to nearly identical looking buildings, chasing around a buff lobster. This game doesn't really have the most engaging missions. They're all pretty tedious. Most of the challenges end up being, go here, do this, and that gets super tiring. At the very least, the challenges don't get frustrating, so you shouldn't be spending too much time on any of them. With the exception of the Reef Blower, Golf Course, and Chum World, because the physics are awful, and if you screw up, the ball goes all the way down and I tend to think the challenges that focus on platforming end up being the most solid, as in I could have some fun with these, even with the jank. But there's just not enough of these. Even collecting doubloons and jellyfish can be pretty tedious, especially the jellyfish. You need to be in a certain costume, more on that later, if you want to catch any jellyfish, and seeing how they're everywhere, you'll be in this costume 90% of the time. What really sucks is there's a part in Jellyfish Fields where there's this guy that wants 100 jellyfish, but there's only 84 in Jellyfish Fields. The game counts jellyfish throughout the whole game, but the problem is the jellyfish counter in the HUD only counts jellyfish in the level you're currently in. So tons of people, myself included, got stuck at this part as a kid because the game didn't make itself clear enough. I think I only got past this part because I talked to little tutor over here out of desperation. It really doesn't help that the levels themselves are kind of boring. The first section in downtown Bikini Bottom is very hard to navigate because everything looks the same. Same goes for the entirety of Jellyfish Fields. There's some standout locations here, but most of it just kind of looks the same. The levels don't even do a good job at looking like the actual places in the show. Downtown Bikini Bottom looks more like a generic city, but for some reason you can see the actual downtown Bikini Bottom here. So what's this place? Jellyfish Fields is more of a valley than a field thanks to the walls. It actually looks closer to the park in Bikini Bottom in certain areas. Goo Lagoon looks more like a desert than a beach. The sand flowing in the wind really doesn't help. I will say the hub world Bikini Bottom does a pretty decent job at looking like it does in the show. It's also closed off like Jellyfish Fields, and that kind of takes away from it, but it doesn't affect it nearly as much as it did for Jellyfish Fields. Sandy's Tree Dome is actually a pretty much perfect interpretation of the one from the show. I really like how they got around the whole air thing. There's a bunch of holes in the dome, letting some water get in so SpongeBob doesn't need his fishbowl helmet. I also really like how the jumping sound effect is different in this one level due to the lack of water. Nice attention to detail. The last two levels would be Chum World and the Flying Dutchman's Graveyard. These areas are actually completely new to the show. I think Chum World is okay, excluding this part at least. There's this part where you platform up a circus tent, and whenever you make a bigger jump, the audience cheers for you, and I thought that was actually pretty cool. The rest of the level is just kind of okay. The Flying Dutchman's Graveyard, however, sucks. You just deliver some gold to some pirates repeatedly, and it gets old really, really fast. One thing I actually really like about this game is how you get into levels. Pretty much every platformer I've ever played, every level just requires you to have a certain amount of whatever collectible that game has, and don't get me wrong, that's fine, it works. But this game actually has you do things that make more sense in the context of the world itself. Like you need to buy the acorn from Squidward's yard sale in order to visit Sandy's Tree Dome, or you need to talk to Mr. Krabs to give him the idea to sell Krabby Patties in downtown Bikini Bottom. It's a small thing, but I like it. The controls are blah. SpongeBob's jump height is always the same no matter how lightly you press the jump button. I think his movement speed could be a bit faster. I think his slower speed is probably one of the reasons why I find this game so boring. You can roll around, and I think this might be a little faster. If it isn't, I have no idea what it's for. There's also a duck jump. It makes you jump a bit higher, and what I find funny is when the game gives you a tutorial on it, you can just use the normal jump. There's also a tutorial on the glide, and I wonder if you... Yep. Yeah, there's a glide. It's not as useful as, say, Spyro's glide, but it really helps with platforming and definitely makes SpongeBob more fun to control. That's not all in terms of SpongeBob's moveset. SpongeBob has 4 main costumes. There's a default one which does nothing. The Mermaid Man costume allows you to throw bubbles and lift heavy things. Once. Actually, the bubble ability is barely used too. I guess this is just a really situational costume. There's also the Reef Blower. A very nice reference to the Season 2 episodes Squidville and Season 1's Reef Blower. Unfortunately, this one's also pretty situational. I can only think of maybe 4 times where you actually need to use it, one of which is completely pointless. You use it on Squidward's pinwheel in his backyard to get some doubloons, and at this point, you already have the letter for getting enough doubloons, so what was the point? I mean, I guess unless you want to get everything, but don't do that. Just don't. The last costume, or I guess the first one, is the jellyfishing gear. This is probably the one useful costume, so you're going to be using this throughout the whole game. Only occasionally switching to the other costumes when you have to. I mentioned it earlier, but to reiterate, you catch jellyfish with it. Shocking. Jellyfish are one of the most useful collectibles in this game. Not only do you need a certain amount to get a letter in each level, but there's also 2 different times where you need to catch a certain amount of jellyfish to proceed. You need 100 to get a reef blower in Jellyfish Fields, and you need to give Larry 50 because he wants to eat them. Wait, what? Okay, first off, there was a SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob freed hundreds of jellyfish from slavery, so I kind of doubt he would send 50 of them off to their deaths. And also, they eat jellyfish? As far as I know, that has never been brought up in the show, and I know for a fact that has never been brought up in the show when this game came out. So where'd that come from? There's actually a couple other costumes. They're not like the others, you can't just switch to them whenever. You only wear them at specific points in the game. The first is the karate outfit. You only wear this 3 times in the whole game. Twice against Sandy and once against Larry. You don't really do karate, you kind of just destroy a bunch of boxes. I personally just spam B and aim for the nearest box, and it just kept on working. But there's also the treasure hunting clothes. You get this by obtaining every SpongeBob letter in a level after doing this stupidly easy puzzle game. Seriously, I completed every one of these within seconds. Even the very last one. You know what? Here's my entire first playthrough of the last puzzle. Anyway, once you complete one of the puzzles, you get the treasure hunting clothes, and it helps you hunt treasure, thanks to a stick. Yeah, I don't get the logic, but if you hold B, the stick starts making a noise while pointing in the direction of the treasure. The treasure being one of the Flying Dutchman's treasures, the thing I mentioned earlier that will stop the Flying Dutchman. My problem with these costumes is that they're really situational. Aside from the jellyfishing gear, you'll only be using them a handful of times. I would have preferred if they just cut everything else out and just made the jellyfishing ability something you have by default. It would have cut out those tedious moments where you need to go out your way to find a changing tent because you need to hit Patrick in the stomach a few times, or the few times you're not in the jellyfishing gear and need to go back later to get some jellyfish that you can't get at the moment. For a SpongeBob video game, there's a strong lack of SpongeBob references. The only references I noticed were some of the costumes and levels being from the show. SpongeBob doesn't even wake up from his foghorn alarm clock, and that's such an easy thing to do, and they didn't. It's not a big deal, but it would have been nice if the game had a few more nods to the show than it does. Oh, there's also SpongeBob saying,
Bring it around town!
while only half trying to dance. That's another thing about this game, the animations kinda suck. They remind me a lot of Sonic Adventure. While I do love that game, I was able to excuse the laughable animations because it's a 1998 Dreamcast launch game. This is a PS2 and GameCube game. Animation has got a lot better at this point, yet we have this. Okay, I want to make it clear, I'm not expecting Jack and Daxter quality animation, but I'm expecting better than this. I mean, look at how SpongeBob's pants stay stationary while everything else moves. The Flying Dutchman has a really twitchy mustache, and what is going on here? Like, what is this? This actually made me audibly laugh when I first saw this. The animations aren't the only thing that remind me of Sonic Adventure, because these graphics really look like they're right out of a Dreamcast game. Everything about this game gives me very strong Dreamcast vibes, the lighting, the textures, especially the characters' models. SpongeBob's model in particular really bugs me. Instead of modeling in his curvy shape, they just make the model a rectangle and texture in his curvy outline, and it's super obvious. I've also noticed that there's a messy white outline around the HUD, specifically around the pants, and that looks really bad. I mean, they couldn't be bothered to make the HUD look good, the thing you're going to be looking at throughout the whole game. Even the canon has it. No way it was that hard to get rid of the white outline. So yeah, the graphics kinda suck. At least the voice acting is good. Everyone has the proper voice actor. Tom Kenny as SpongeBob, Clancy Brown as Mr. Krabs, Bill Fagerbach as Patrick, Doug Lawrence as Plankton, and so on. The only exception is the French narrator. He's the tutorial guy of this game, and I think that's a pretty cool idea, but if you listen to the voice, it's so clearly a French narrator, but not the French narrator. It's not the same voice, so you might assume they couldn't get the voice act. Nope, they did. Tom Kenny also voices a French narrator, and obviously he's here, so what happened? Other than that, the voice acting is actually really good. Too bad the script isn't. I don't think it's awful for the most part, but it didn't really make me laugh, though I did get a chuckle at this bit.
So this is downtown Bikini Bottom. How will I ever find Mr. Krabs in such a huge place where the streets never end and the buildings just go on and on and on?
Yoo-hoo! SpongeBob, over here!
But that's about it. The only part I thought was actually awful was the excessive booty jokes in the final level.
Booty!
Booty?
Someone grabbed my booty. Booty.
Booty.
His booty is bigger than anyone's. He just can't get enough booty.
Booty?
I could barely get my hands around all that booty. Booty just before my booty was pinched. I used to love warming my booty in this place, but now I have no booty at all.
Booty?
Everyone wants more booty, and I'd much rather be playing with my booty. You must really know where to find the best booty.
Booty. Don't even think about saying the B word.
Get it? Because booty means treasure and butt. They must have been super proud of this sparingly used joke because it extended to the advertisement for this game. The rest of the sound is pretty bad. The lifeguards on the beach before beating you up, which seems a bit counterproductive, but whatever. They say something, but that something overpowers all of the audio, as in no music, no sound effects, only
Hey, no running on the beach!
the music even resets when you hear the lifeguard. You know what? The music resets when you do anything, even pausing the game. The music itself isn't very good. Actually, that's not fair. I actually do think the music is fine. It even does a good job at feeling like it's from SpongeBob. The problem is there's so little. Each of the costumes have their own songs, meaning you're going to be hearing a lot of the same music. Specifically the jellyfishing theme. It gets super annoying and even ruins the tone in many situations. Like, look at this part in Goo Lagoon where a boat is chasing you down.
Get off the beach, runt!
Now watch it with a more appropriate theme.
Get off the beach, runt!
Or how about the lighthouse part in Goo Lagoon, where you're platforming on a bunch of jellyfish during a storm. This is probably the most memorable part of the game, and the atmosphere is so close to amazing, but the music is so wrong. There are two levels that actually do have their own music, Chumrold and the Flying Dutchman's Graveyard. I don't know why these levels are so special, but I still appreciate it. Too bad these are probably the worst songs in the game, but an effort was made, I guess. You'd think the final boss would have a unique song, but nope. Anyway, final boss. This is the easiest final boss I've ever done. Bombs fall from the sky, so you have to pick up the bombs that throw at him. He only takes 3 hits, and if you're fast enough, you can get him twice in one cycle. And because of that, I beat him in 2. Yeah, this is probably the most anticlimactic final boss I've ever done, even more so than Spyro 1 somehow. After saving everyone with some pretty phenomenal animation, the game just abruptly ends. Credits. You also get some really cool concept art for the show, but that's it. A pretty lame ending to a pretty lame game. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman isn't a good game. It's not the worst game I've ever played. I've played far worse. In fact, I don't know if I would go as far to say this game is bad. If anything, it's just painfully mediocre. And that sucks because I love the idea of this game, a 3D platformer collectathon SpongeBob game. That's an awesome idea, but this execution just is not there. However, there is one game that is just that, and I will be reviewing it next time. See you guys next time when I review SpongeBob SquarePants Battle Bikini Bottom. Bye.